ready to grin. I hope this ain't happening.
Ciao everyone, welcome to my channel. Hope you have a drink with you. I am drinking, I think it's an orange and carrot juice in honor of Halloween. Let me know what you're drinking down in the comments. Cheers! Delicious. My name is Valentina. I'm originally from Rome, Italy, but I live in San Francisco in the Bay Area. This is actually my second channel. My main channel is called Comfyera, and it's a vlog channel where I document the adventures and misadventures of being a 30-something in the Bay Area. And I have 4 cats, so cats are going to be highly featured. Right now, we just moved into a new place. There's going to be a lot of moving vlogs, decorating, and I'm also just about to post a life reset video. So if those things sound interesting, definitely feel free to check out that channel. But over here, I'm really looking forward to talking about books, and specifically a novel that I've been longing to write for so long. Grab yourself a drink as well, make yourself cozy, and let's talk a little bit about writing. This video is going to be broken down into 3 parts. First, I'm going to be talking about my journey as a writer and how I ended up falling in love with an idea for a story that I want to write so badly that I just was compelled to start this YouTube channel. I also want to tell you a little bit more about the project itself, and last but not least, I'll spill the beans on what you can expect from this channel moving forward. I don't know if you can relate, but I knew that I wanted to be a writer ever since I knew how to write. I mean, honestly, I barely knew how to spell my own name, and yet I was just going to anyone who was willing to listen and telling them that when I grew up, I was gonna be an author. I was so confident back then. I wish that people would have welcomed me with open arms and been so happy for me and the fact that I already knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. But the truth was that I was met with a lot of skepticism and people even laughing in my face. Which, to be fair, I was 6 years old. Maybe that's justified, I don't know. I was not the best speller, but still, I'm not gonna lie, it hurt. And I think it did make me feel some imposter syndrome that then held me back from coming back here to writing. But that's okay. We're over that imposter syndrome, or at least working on it. And that's why I'm here. Going back to when I was a child, I was a total bookworm, and I loved books so much that I would even read while I was walking, to the point where one time I actually walked straight into a pole. I was a character, let's put it that way. And I also loved writing stories and telling stories. And I actually remember this being like group exercise. So me and my best friends, we would all kind of sit down together and we would just have the best time attempting to imitate our favorite authors, which I think for me was Agatha Christie. I remember trying to imitate her for some reason. We experimented with different tropes. We did games where I would write a part of a story, then give it to my friend, and they would have to continue it, and then they would pass it back to me, and then we would see what would come up. And I'm sure that if I read those stories today, I would cringe real hard, or maybe laugh real hard. I don't know. They were probably wild stories that didn't make a lot of sense, but I had so much fun writing them, and that's really what cemented in me that love for writing from a very young age. As a teenager, I wrote what you could technically call the first draft of a novel. I think you would have to be generous to call it that because it was complete. It was a full story. I remember being so proud of myself for writing, and the whole experience was also really enjoyable because I was writing for my alpha reader, who was my boyfriend at the time. Shout out Alberto, we're still friends. It was just so enjoyable to actually like write and then get to see how he would experience the novel, and I guess he was a really good friend slash boyfriend because he was excited to read more. So yeah, so that was a really fun summer, and I was really proud of what I came up with. But then when the summer ended and school started up again, I didn't really know how to take a first draft of a novel and turn it into something that was actually publishable. So I just got busy with school, and then fast forward to college, which is when I had another idea for a novel. This was the first one that I actually wrote in English. I was writing in Italian back then. That story was the most autobiographical story that I've ever written to date. It was a coming-of-age novel, and the main protagonist was surprise, surprise, a 20-something young girl who wanted to become an author one day, and talked a lot about the experience of having to move from a country that you love to seek better opportunities in a new country, which is exactly what I was going through as well. And what was fascinating about that story is that I got excruciatingly stuck halfway through. And I think it happened for two reasons. The first was that I was a complete discovery writer, what you would call a pantser, and I didn't even know that plotting was a thing that people actually did. And if you've tried pantsing yourself, you probably know that there's some downsides that come with the territory. Namely, you can write yourself in a corner, or sometimes you end up writing some really cool scenes that seem very interesting and compelling in isolation, but then struggle to come together into a cohesive narrative. And that's pretty much exactly what happened to my novel. There were lots of cool ideas and bits and pieces. Nothing really made sense when you tried to put it together. And I also really struggled to come up with what would happen to my characters as they were coming of age. They were basically struggling to become adults. And that's when I had a realization that the characters were actually mirroring how I felt inside. That was kind of wild. Once I had that realization, I understood that if I wanted to be an author, I actually needed to first step out into the world and live a little. So I put that book on hold and I tried to find my very first corporate job. I think I was slightly over optimistic because I genuinely hoped that I could have a 9-to-5 job and also keep writing on the side. And I did try to do that at first and even started a fourth novel, but things didn't go quite as planned. And you know what? I can't say that I have any regrets because I was so lucky to have an amazing career and work in companies and in jobs that I know a lot of people would really feel are dream jobs, and that honestly I genuinely loved and felt super lucky to do. So it's not like I didn't have fun, and it's not that I didn't think that working in a corporate job was worth it, because in many ways it was. And this is a whole other topic, so I don't want to go into a tangent. I do think that my 9-to-5 definitely came with some important benefits that I still value to this day. That said, my career definitely came with some trade-offs as well. And the main one was that the job just took so much of my energy, my time, my mental bandwidth. And when I had free time, I felt too exhausted to take on such an epic project like writing a novel, which is something that you have to dedicate months and years of your life to, and that you really have to pour your whole heart into. So you might be asking yourself, what changed? Did I get laid off? Did I quit my job? What made me want to actually create this channel? And what makes me think that now I can write a novel? That's a very good question. So let's talk about it. Now, basically what happened is that back at the end of 2023, I had a little bit of a health crisis, a very scary health crisis actually. And what ended up happening is that for the first time in a decade or more, I couldn't work. And I had a lot of time to think. And that's when I realized that if I kept living in the same way that I had been living for the past 10 plus years, I would wake up from the workaholic days and realize that I wore my entire life away and never once actually made the time to pursue my dreams. And I just didn't want to live with that kind of regret. Honestly, that's the type of thing that scares me the most. And so that's when I knew that something had to change and that I had to somehow make time for the things that really mattered deeply to me. It was also around that time that I had the idea for the novel. So we're getting to the exciting part because I can't wait to tell you about this project. The book is going to be a sci-fi / fantasy, meaning that it will blend both elements of science fiction and fantasy. So there's going to be magic and futuristic technology and a hint of dystopia. Although what I will say is that this isn't going to be your typical dystopia. And what I mean by that is that it's not going to have the same atmosphere and vibes that you would usually expect from a dystopian book. I think the best way I can explain it is by nerding out about books for just a second. Think about a book like 1984, which is such an important book that makes you reflect deeply on the horrors of living in an extremely controlling world where humans are stripped of all of their most essential freedoms. Well, that book is undoubtedly a masterpiece, but it was also a harrowing read. Coming to the end of the book, I still felt deeply uncertain about what I could do if I ever was in a situation like the one depicted in the book, and how one could even begin to resist or counteract a society like the one depicted in the book. Versus, if you think about a book like Emil Kwang's Blood Over Bright Haven, that book also has dystopian elements. It's also a harrowing read that will leave your heart shattered into a billion pieces, and you should definitely read it if you haven't already. But the biggest difference is that when I closed that book, I felt a renewed sense of hope and agency, and I felt this burning desire to go out into the world and do what I could to make a positive difference. Obviously, I don't pretend to be nearly as talented as Emil Kwang or George Orwell, but yeah, my hope is for readers to come to the last page of my book, even if maybe their hearts might also be in a million pieces. Hopefully, they'll also feel energized and fired up and wanting to go out and contribute in a positive way to the world. Maybe this is the idealist in me that's really showing up. This actually leads me to the next point, which is that I really want reading this book to be fun. Something that you wouldn't want to put down, that you might even want to reread again. So there's going to be romance, fights a la Demon Slayer, where you don't really know if the characters are going to make it out alive or not. Hard magic systems where protagonists have to be really strategic and creative and just survive another day. There might be a little bit of spice. And I also want to discuss themes that are near and dear to my heart, like friendship and found family, and what it means to be human, and what it takes to overcome systems of oppression, and the importance of community. The last thing I'll say is that this project is going to be called Project Gaia, and I chose the name very intentionally for a couple of reasons. I'm gonna get a little nerdy again, but please stay with me, I promise it's worth it. In Greek mythology, Gaia was actually the goddess of the earth, the mother of titans and other beings. The second meaning of the word Gaia is a scientific term called the Gaia hypothesis, which proposed that Earth's living organisms and their inorganic surroundings interact in a self-regulating, complex system which creates the conditions that ultimately allow for life on Earth to exist. And, interestingly enough, Gaia is also the name of our main protagonist, which should give you a little bit of insight into who she is and her role in the story. I'm not going to say much more because I already feel like I said way too much, but hopefully this gives you some hints into what this book is really about and makes you curious to want to know more. And honestly, this is one of my goals in creating this channel. I want this channel to feel very complementary to reading the novel and to add texture to the novel and make it feel even more satisfying to read for when it does finally come out. And this is actually the perfect segue to talk a little bit about why I'm on authortube and what you can expect from this channel moving forward. I discovered authortube back in 2023 when I first had the idea for this novel. And the first authortubers that I stumbled upon were Christy Ann Jones and Abby Emmons. Both of them were so fun to watch, and Abby's advice was especially helpful because she was the one who introduced me to Save the Cat and the power of plotting and story beats and character arcs and basically all the different tools in a writer's arsenal that writers use daily to craft stories that capture readers the whole way through. All things that would have saved me so much pain and headache if I discovered them like 10 years ago. But oh well, better late than never, I guess. Anyways, when I discovered authortube, I immediately had the desire to start my own channel. But when I compared myself to other writers on authortube, I just didn't feel like I was knowledgeable enough to have a space in this community. And because I had the other channel, I decided to focus my energy there and put my dream on the back burner once again. And I thought that would be that until I discovered an awesome authortuber named Brielle Wright. So Brielle, in the unlikely chance that you're watching this, thank you so much for making me feel like I had a place in this community. And definitely go check out her channel as well as all the other channels that I've mentioned. I will leave them down in the description because this community is amazing and there's so many awesome creators to follow. What I loved about Brielle is that she very much presented herself as somebody who wasn't an expert and was also just documenting the process of writing her first novel. And I really resonated with that because I also feel like I'm such a newbie. And even though, yes, technically I have written a first draft of a novel when I was a teenager, that novel was nowhere near published ready. It really wasn't actually like a complete novel that anyone would really want to read unless they were a really close friend. So yeah, like I think this will be my first novel that I ever write and get to publication. And so seeing somebody like Brielle document her journey and learning with us was very inspiring and made me feel that maybe I do have something to say that could be interesting for other people. The other thing that I really loved about Brielle's channel is that at the time when she first started, she was also working full-time and she also had another lifestyle channel. It really felt like she was kind of showing me the way of what was possible. I took it as a sign that, hey, I have no more excuses now. There is somebody else that has the same dreams that I do and is following those dreams. What am I waiting for, right? If you're watching this and you also have a story within you and you've always wanted to start an authortube channel, then maybe this is your sign. Because if I can do it, then you can do it too. And if you do start your channel, let all of us know down in the comments so we can all go check it out. As for what to expect from this channel, I want to take you through the entire process of writing and publishing my first novel. From brainstorming, to drafting, to revisions, to sourcing beta readers, to figuring out the cover of the book, to editing the book, and finally to actually publishing. Because while I don't know when I'm going to be publish this thing, I know for sure that I'm going to finish this book and I will publish it someday, no matter how long it takes me. In the month of October, I'm going to be preparing for National Novel Writing Month, which is the month of November. And that's a special month for writers because it's a month in which many of us attempt to write 50,000 words of our novel, which, if you are a writer, you know is a lot of words. Even though the nonprofit that ran NaNoWriMo has actually closed, I still think that the concept is great and I'm really looking forward to attempting the challenge for the first time this year. We'll see how we do, but we'll give it our best shot. And so what that means for me is that the month of October is going to be about preparing for that challenge. What a lot of writers call Preptober. Okay, I really need to drink. One sec. So during the month of October, I hope to release 2 videos. The first is going to be all about brainstorming the novel. So lots of world building, really deep diving into the characters, their story arcs, their backstories, what they want, what they need, what makes them who they are. And I also want to really dig into the magic system because right now, all I know is that there's going to be magic, but I don't know a lot more beyond that. So yeah, there's a lot to figure out. The second video is going to be all about plotting because I'm pretty sure I'm converted and I'm no longer a pantser. But we'll see if I convert to being a proper plotter by the end of it. It's going to be interesting. Right now, when it comes to my novel, I have a really clear idea of how it begins. I already know some of the major plot points that I want to hit, and I know how I want it to end, I think. But the beginning is where things get real fuzzy. So that's what I'm hoping to spend a lot of time fleshing out because I don't want to get stuck in the middle of a book again. And then in the month of November, we're going to be writing, baby, because I want to write as many words as I can. I mean, it would be amazing if I could actually write 50,000 words. I don't know how realistic that is. And then we'll go from there because, like I said, I am determined to self-publish this thing. So we'll do whatever it takes to get it to that point. Well, maybe not whatever it takes, but we'll put a lot of effort towards this goal. Really briefly, I want to touch on the reasons why I want to self-publish in case this is something that you are also thinking about. So for me, first it's because I'm an impatient bitch. And I can't imagine the annoyance of writing something and putting so much effort into it, but then having to wait for 2 years before you actually see it in print. That's just way too long for somebody like me. I just know that I will have put so much effort, and the day that the novel is ready to be published, I will want to publish it, like that day or the next day. And I'm pretty sure you can't actually do that, but I'll just want to publish it as soon as I can. And the second reason is because I'm a little bit of a control freak, I'm not gonna lie, but most importantly, I really want this book to come from the heart and to reflect what I feel I have to say as a writer. And even though I definitely want to write something that people would be excited to read, I don't want to feel that my story is restricted by the latest trends and tropes, and I really want to write something that feels true to me. And so that's another reason I want to self-publish. I'll also say that some of my favorite authors ever, like ML Kwang and Virginia Woolf and Jane Austen, were also self-published. So for me, if I get to self-publish a book, I'd feel like I'm in such great company. For all these reasons, I am really excited to self-publish and to take you on this journey with me. If you made it this far, please let me know by leaving the book emoji in the comments. It would really make my day. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so that the next time that I do post, you will be able to know. Thank you so much for being on this journey with me and for welcoming me to the community. As we say in Italy, buona scrittura e a prestissimo. Ciao!